joining us again for our fall presentation. We are excited because we just recently changed our collection to continue through the fall, and we have the Thanksgiving baskets, Amish baskets, and the velvet crazy quilts. Piece behind me is a Amish early, probably 1880 Amish quilt in wool, and you can see it's just vibrant and wonderful with the bright colors. Our project today is unique in that we are honoring the family and the family traditions, and we have our customers come to us and bring us presentations of things that they would like reproduced from their family, or restored pieces of all kinds of things from their family. So, and in the past I've introduced some of our specialists that are here with me and keep me sane. And I have an outstanding, lovely lady by the name of Chris Young that I'd like to introduce now. Come on, Chris.
Good afternoon, Nancy.
You're in the firing line. Chris and I have been together how many years?
Oh, I think it's 9 years.
9 years. Aren't we wonderful as we are growing older by the minute? Anyway, Chris is always up for a good project, and she is a seamstress, a quintessential seamstress like no other. And she knows her fabric. No matter what kind of fabric we come across, I'll say to her, Chris, what is this? And she always knows. Her brain is an encyclopedia of fabric. So
You're very kind.
Thank you. So our problem this time was a customer came and she said she has how many children? Or grandchildren?
Oh, I think she has something like that.
12.
Yes. You're referring to the names that go on the
Yes.
slip.
Yes.
There's about 12 of them.
12. That she has a lovely christening gown, and all of her 12 grandchildren have been christened in this gown, and she would like for us to document it with their names and their birthdays.
Right. And there's her nieces and nephews as well, and her daughter, and some of her children as well. So it's an extended family.
For the whole family?
Yes.
I didn't realize that. I thought it was just her
Right.
grandchildren. Wow. At any rate, the problem that we had was they all wouldn't fit on the original gown. So our problem, our choices that we had to come up with, well, how do we get all these names onto something? And so I said to Chris, could you make a new slip? And she said, sure. And that's exactly what she's done, and I'm so excited to show it to you. You want to go over?
Why don't we take a look?
Take a look.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are. This magnificent piece is the christening gown that Chris's grandmother made, and I would like Chris to tell us a little bit about it. How old do you think it is, Chris?
I'm going to say it's at least 100 years old.
Wow.
My grandmother was obviously raised in the era when handwork was valued. Unfortunately, I don't think we see a lot of that nowadays, but it has a variation of a Madeira hem on it, which means it has a scallop hem, and it's all hand stitched down with tiny scallops, and she did that. And she also inserted, this is called insertion lace. We have two of the insertion lace pieces which border the center panel. That's stitched in by hand as well. We have a center
design. Did she do that design?
She did the design, and she put these little dots right above it. She also
Look at
did this
that.
matching design up here. And on
Wow.
close inspection, I have found only machine stitches in the French.
French seams. Oh my goodness.
French seams are pretty typical for christening gowns because so many of them are made of this extremely lightweight batiste.
What was, I was just going to ask you, tell us, it is batiste.
Yeah, this is a
Imported,
version.
do you think? Or
In those days, I don't really know. Could have been.
was she
Puget-
here in the States
She
when
was.
she made it?
Yeah, she was. She was in Puget Sound.
In where?
And Tacoma, Washington.
Really?
Mhm.
Puget Sound.
Mhm,
Wow.
mhm. So you see this every so often. This particular fabric here, this is about as lightweight as any lawn or batiste is going to get. Very difficult to find. Generally, this product is an imported product. It is nowadays. But she took great care with this.
So, and her tiny
Handwork
tiny
buttonholes.
little buttons.
Mhm,
Oh my
mhm.
goodness.
Little
They're-
buttons
Look
at
at
the-
those buttons.
They are so small, they're difficult to button because they are so small.
Oh.
But all the little, because they're as small as they are, she had to do the buttonholes by hand.
Oh, they're just exquisite.
Yeah.
Look at that tiny little button.
Yeah.
Wow. And so this is the slip that
Mhm.
goes with the dress.
Most every christening gown has a slip that goes with it, and Grandma made this out of something called Swiss embroidery. That's what this panel is here, which is about 2.5 to 3 inches. She has another piece of insertion that matches going above it. And the insertion and the ruffle are attached to the gown with the entredot stitch.
The entredot stitch.
Entredot, uh-huh.
Tell me what that is.
Entredot stitch sort of, it gives a look of, best way I can describe it is like beading,
Uh-huh.
little tiny openings.
Uh-huh.
It's a real delicate lace kind of a look, and Grandma did that by hand.
Oh, just
And,
gorgeous.
Again, it's got the lace around the top, which is about 1/8 of an inch wide. Very difficult to find that today.
And all this embroidery is so beautiful.
This I'm sure was purchased with that embroidery feature on it.
Do you think?
I think it was, but I think she attached this itty bitty lace with
Little
1/8 of an
lace.
inch.
I bet it, oh, it's so gorgeous.
So there she was, sitting in her house, working away by hand
In Tacoma.
in Tacoma.
Uh-huh.
Probably not real good light.
How many
because
years
it's only
ago?
100 years ago.
100 years ago.
Yeah.
In
Uh-huh.
Tacoma, Washington.
That's right.
Oh my goodness. The wind was blowing.
The wind was blowing. Yeah.
Now, this brings us to, well, now you understand how wonderful she is. I mean, Chris has the DNA in her veins from her
Thank you.
grandmother, too. I mean, did you did you know her?
Oh, definitely.
So you
We were
sat
quite
with
close.
her.
We were quite close. Well, she didn't do a lot of sewing as she got older. I think a
Mhm.
lot of her sewing was out of necessity. She
Uh.
had 3 boys.
Oh,
And her husband was, he worked in shipyards in Tacoma.
oh my goodness.
And he was a shipbuilder. But he,
Mhm.
he's one of the laborer types. So these were
Mhm.
hardworking people. And so she was very practical.
Oh,
And she made so many things for her boys.
uh-huh.
And I've seen pictures of these boys. And they
Uh-huh.
were neat as a pin, those little boys.
And the gown,
And the gown.
they were all christened in this
oh,
gown.
yes. And my cousins were, my brothers and sisters and I were.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
you as
Mhm.
well? I
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
know
Several
that.
family members have been baptized in this gown.
Oh, it's so joyous to think about families and, well, we can go on a little bit more, but let's continue with the slip.
Yes.
And this is the slip that you have made.
This,
Do you
I'm
want to
working-
talk to
yes,
us about it?
I definitely will.
Okay?
The customer, again, as Nancy said, came to us. Decision was made she needed another slip to go with this gown. She wants to do something like what's happened with mine and my family. She wants a gown that can be passed down from one generation to the next. And she wants to document who in her family have worn this gown. We had some embroidery done on the front and on the back along the hem. This is the names of those who in her family who have been baptized in this gown right here over the years. And because we put it down here, she will be able in the future to add additional names as needed. So it's got...
That was the most difficult part, is making the slip so that it could be fit well with the outside gown, and then to get all of the the names, and not only the names, but the birth dates.
Okay.
So that's the important thing about working with families. There's a famous commercial that I just love, and it's about a watch company, and you never really own a Patek Philippe. You only take care of it for the next generation. That is the best commercial that could ever be made. It hits it right home for me. So this is what we do. We can take these baby quilts and we make them we reproduce them. We can use family clothing, the original little shirts and bits and pieces to make a perfectly wonderful baby quilt. This is an ABC quilt, and then a sailboat quilt for any little boy is charming. And then, of course, the famous Sunbonnet Sue on the end there. That's a very highly collectible piece that little girls love around the world. The pictures, of course, are some of our family, and we are happy to show them to you.
Here we have a collection of pictures of family members. We'll start with this center picture right here. This is a picture of my grandmother. This is my grandmother who lived in Tacoma, Washington. She's the one who created the christening gown and the slit that we just took a look at. She also made her wedding gown in this picture as well.
Do you have her wedding gown?
I have her wedding gown, yes, and I have it in a box at home in acid-free tissue.
Archival
tissue, and I have it in the cedar closet.
Oh.
So I take it out every so often.
Yes, I'd love to see it. When we do it again, let's family pieces.
Absolutely.
Bring it. That'd be wonderful.
Absolutely.
And who are those charming little people?
This is me. And this is my sister. I'm 3 years old.
Oh.
This is my sister, Tonya.
And did those dresses, or what was in?
Nothing really significant about
Okay.
that. This was taken on Easter Sunday.
Oh my
So
goodness.
that's
so sweet.
Yep. And this is my granddaughter. Her name is Charlotte. She lives in Minnesota. I have 3 grandsons. These 2 are twins, and this is the youngest grandson of mine. And they live here in Virginia.
And also the things that we can make. I mean, this wonderful little elephant fellow, we could very easily reproduce him. It's so charming with any of their clothes, or and add personal things.
Sure.
And the booties are so charming, and the bib, just out of their family things that belong to. It's so much more perfect. One of my favorite things is my grandmother's handwriting, and I have her handwriting on my recipes that she did for me, and I'm just always taken when I look at the recipe. I don't necessarily, I'm not a skilled cook like you are, so I don't reproduce them very often. You can ask my husband. But the handwriting is exquisite, and so now I'm having the recipe reproduced, and so I can see, and then it'll be on little patchwork pieces.
It's a wonderful idea.
So and then I can see her handwriting every day.
It's a wonderful idea.
It's so charming. So the others, this is our motley crew. Grandsons, granddaughters, elephants. No, that belongs to my husband's family. No. That's our family too. Grandsons, granddaughter. That's the only painting we have of her. We have others, but I couldn't bring them in. Little teddy bear. We make beautiful teddy bears right now. Carla makes us exquisite teddy bears out of clothing for the families. Uniforms, we've made the teddy bears out of uniforms.
Neckties.
And the neckties, yes, I've forgotten about that. So In essence, that's what we do. We reproduce, and we like the thoughts of doing things from one generation to the next. And I think that commercial is, we really don't own anything. We just really try and take care of it for the next generation. What do you say, Chris?
Absolutely. Just the idea, and I would say a good portion of our customers come in with that in mind. They want something for the next generation. They've got some neckties that belong to somebody very important to them. We can do a variety of things, from pillows to quilts to teddy bears with our neckties. So it's a lasting way to remember important people in our lives and carry that on through the generations.
We just recently had a lady from Germany popped in, and she was interested in the American experience of quilting, and was very interesting herself. And the more she looked around, she saw things that we had made from other people's clothing, like the t-shirt quilts and the wonderful Halloween quilt that we're working on. And she said, well, that's what I need to do. I need to go home, back to Germany, and get some fabric colors that I like, and then find the fabric, she said, from her family, and send it to us and have us make pieces for her quilting. So thank you for coming and joining us today.